But the biggest story that came out of the Duke game from last night is Coach K apparently dropping an F-bomb at one of the fans that rushed the court, and then sort of having this, I don't know, I felt like he sort of came across like this high and almighty type of person because he was upset with the lack of escort off of the court, and he thinks that fans should have to wait until the losing team is off of the court to storm the court, and it's very dangerous, and it's not a good thing. And dude, you're Duke. You don't go you don't go like have teams come to your home stadium, and when you beat them, your fans rush the court. You know why? Because you're Duke.
Yeah, but nobody has rushed the court, has had the court rushed on them more than Duke. And I understand it's a matter of safety. Plus, when listen, I know if I'm a college kid, because I know the type of college fan I was. If I was on the court and I had players or somebody from the other team next to me, I'm going to probably throw something their way. Not necessarily throw, but I mean as far as verbally. Oh, you guys suck, or, oh, yeah, what a game.
F you guys go
home. Or,
You can be honest here. It's cool.
But I remember one time, I think it was against Marist when I was at Ryder, and they had on their team as their center this big, goofy, red-headed white guy come off the bench. And I literally started a chant in the crowd of goofy white guy. And, I mean, it completely threw this kid off his game. He stunk. But I can imagine if it was a rush-to-court situation, I was face-to-face with that guy, I'm probably calling him a goofy white guy to his face and calling him a loser. I just see that happening. So I understand that some college kids get a few too many drinks in them, could turn into a little bit of a hostile environment with the other team on the court. Now, if the other team's not there, I think it's all fun and jubilation because you're just celebrating with all the people there. So I understand where Krzyzewski's coming from because he's saying, well, listen, it's really not that safe. Plus, I guess he got into a screaming match with some people last night, and some assistant coaches did as well. Some of the players were getting chippy with the fans. Which you almost don't even expect from Virginia, because Virginia's like a big law school. You figure a lot of well-behaved, very smart school. You don't necessarily think you'd see something like that out of them. But apparently things got chippy last night. And
well, like you said, a couple too many drinks in them. I don't care if you're the most respectable lawyer in the world, the president, ambassadors of this, whoever, whatever spot in society you have, whenever people drink a lot, and then they get sort of excited or a competitive moment or whatever it might be, people do not think clearly. And they may say things or do things that they would not normally do if they were thinking clearly. And that is really what you're talking about with, perhaps these students not really, portraying themselves as you may think they should have. But the bottom line is these guys, most of these kids that stormed the court were drunk. I think Coach K is right in the fact that they need to have a better plan in place. Like, okay, hey, we are unranked Virginia. Yeah. We have number 3 Duke coming in. If we win, the court's being stormed. So why don't we do this? And you know what?
Miami did that. We heard that on the way down, that when Duke played Miami the first time this year, they knew ahead of time pretty much, listen, if we win, we're storming the court. So no after-game handshake. Just as soon as the clock hits 0, just beeline for the locker room and get out of there. Don't worry about anything else because we don't want any injuries or anything. That seemed to work. Maybe they need to do something like that. I know the SEC also fines schools for kids rushing the court now.
Yeah, they said $5,000 for your first offense, $25,000 for your second, and then $50,000 for your third offense.
Yeah, which has, believe it or not, cut down on the storming of the court in the SEC. Although you haven't had a lot of big upsets in the SEC. I mean, the biggest one probably this year is Arkansas beating Florida. And even then, I mean, we heard on the ride down that the Arkansas players, instead of having the players rush to court, they went up into the stands and
party with the fans in the stands.
And I would be totally cool if a team wanted to do that, run up into the stands, lean into the crowd, be happy, celebrate. I am all for the celebration aspect, but you also have to make sure the other team gets off the court. And listen, they're bitter. They're upset because they just lost to an unranked team that they shouldn't have lost to.
Yep.
Everybody's bitter.
Emotions
and you don't
are
need
flowing.
You don't need to make a bitter situation any worse by adding to it. So
what my favorite part is, though, anybody that has anything to say to these players most likely says it while running away from them, because 9 out of 10 fans are half the size of the guys that are playing the game itself. So you're not going to really try and purposely piss them off and stand there and do it. But when it comes down to what Coach K said, I don't disagree with him in the aspect that they need to have a better way of getting the opposing team or the losing team off of the court in a timely manner so that the fans coming onto the court do not run them over. You would pretty much, a.k.a. avoid altercation with the losing team and the fans. But I do not think for 1 second that storming the court should be taken away from fans. I just don't. I think you need to do a better job of getting the losing team off of the court. But I don't think you should ban it. I don't think schools should get fined for it. I respect what the SEC did, but I don't agree with it. I think that you should be allowed to as a fan. You don't get to do that in many opportunities. That is, believe it or not, whether these kids are toasted or sober, storming that court is a memory they're going to have for the rest of their life. That actually means something to these kids, a lot more than just a win or loss on Coach K's resume. It does. We heard, we're listening to, Mike.
And again, Krzyzewski wasn't saying to ban it. He was just saying we got to get the losing team off the floor.
That's what I mean. I agree with him saying that. I'm just saying I'm personally just saying I don't think that getting rid of storming the court is something that they should look into.
No.
And really, we heard it on the ride down today. Mike's talking about going to Northwestern, and, this is 20 years ago, and he still remembers what it was like storming that court. And that's what I mean. This is something, I just don't think you take that away from the students, because it's not like maybe it seems like it this year, but it's not like this is an every week occurrence where your team is knocking off a top 5 team. I don't agree with the whole, what was it, like 2 weeks ago? I can't remember the teams. Blah, blah, blah beat number like 23, blah, 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 and their fans rushed the court. That I don't agree with.
No,
you beat a team that's on the out, right there on that skirt of being
top
in the
5.
top. Yeah.
It has to be a top 5, and even really, for me, it would have. Yeah, like I said, outside the top 5, like even if you beat number 6, I'm like, it's got to be a top 5 team to be storm the court. Either that, or you have to be like a no-win team.
Yeah. Playing the best team in your conference, who
might be ranked like 7th or 8th, somebody from out in the WAC playing Gonzaga, And I wouldn't even consider BYU, because BYU going into this game was like 20-9. So it's not like they were having a bad year anyway. So like I don't think BYU should have rushed the court last night.
And they're also getting consideration for the tournament itself.
Exactly. So that's why I don't think you rushed the court after, And again, BYU was unranked, but I don't think that game should have been rushed to court game last night.
But it would have been.
Oh, yeah.
You beat number 2 Gonzaga,
Yeah, I just think that maybe you should cut back on the excessive rushing the court.
Yeah.
But fans are excited.
So do we think there should be rules to storming? I think to answer that question, I think there should be a almost like a self-respect factor, like an etiquette to it. But I wouldn't say jot down and write, rule 1, blah, blah, blah. Rule
I think the
2,
only
blah,
rule they
blah,
should have is maybe tell the kids, listen, when the clock hits 0, give it another 15 seconds for the losing team to hit the tunnel. Once they're in the tunnel, then you could go then you can go crazy.
You know,
But let that team, because they're already pretty close. They're already right next to the locker room, the bench. All they got to do is turn up and walk sideways. That's what I'm saying. 15 seconds isn't going to make or break storm in the court.
You could almost make it a little fun for the fans, and after the win, put up on the big scoreboard like a countdown clock for like storm the, you can storm the court in 10, 9, like something like that, where like the fan, like, because that initial energy you get when your team wins is what drives everybody to run down there.
Yeah.
So if you're going to tell the fans they have to wait, you have to give them something to sort of bring back that energy.
Yeah.
So perhaps doing something like that where it's like, all right, guys, so NCAA rule is you guys cannot storm the court until the opposing team is off the court. So what we're going to do is you stay with us. We're going to give you the countdown, and we can all scream, 10, 9. Like, no, the excitement won't be exactly the same. Let's be serious. But it's still something that would get their energy back up.
Yeah.
I don't think it would reach the same level of the initial win when it was over. But you'd still get them back up. They'd still be excited to storm the court. I could just picture the guys right on the floor, like 10, 9. Like, the guys getting really, like, oh, I can't wait to get out there moments.